Hello. Good evening. And once again, welcome to the Wednesday Night Live. Yes, where we go over the week that has been, the midweek hump, the bump in the road of the week of politics, where politicians fall and then try and scramble back up as they try and race towards the finish of the week, maybe with a bit of dignity. And to be honest, Liz has made some interesting comments, and I've got the audio queued up right here so you know exactly what we're going to go over. You know exactly what we're going to start off with straight away. But as always, before we start, welcome once and always, and welcome to everyone in chat who's watching. Like I say, welcome, say hi, say hello. We've already got Colin Thompson, greetings to you from New York, and Spike, hello to you from the Netherlands as well. So greetings to you, and like I say, everyone else say hi in chat and welcome in. Come on in, join the conversation, pull up a pew, as they say. And as well, please do remember to hit the like button and the share button. Like I say, like and share, it massively helps with the I don't know if you can hear the dog outside. Yeah. That's distracted me now. So yeah, hit the like and share button. Like I say, it helps massively. Like I say, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it wherever. Pedos, good morning to you. Bonsoir. Good morning. Good morning. That's another show. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it is. Dave, whatever you're on, can I have some? Well, unfortunately, no. It's called life. It's very, very intoxicating, but there you go. But oh boy, have we got a show for you this evening? We're going to start off, and we're going to go over the audio from Liz Truss. We're going to play it to you in full so you can hear what she said, and then we will go over it bit by bit, because I think there's a lot to comment on, to be honest, about it. But after that, we're going to go over then today to, later on in the show, to Belfast. Yes, we will be having a look at the hustings that took place earlier on today in Belfast to see what Liz and Rishi got up to today on their trip over to there to, essentially see a very, very, very small part of what is essentially the Tory party. Like I say, in my video today, I made about it. The Tory party actually ran a candidate in the last election over in Stormont, and they got 27 votes. Just think about that. 27 votes. They came behind a guy in last place who was trying to criminalize adultery. So, at least, as you can see, Northern Ireland, they, again, didn't vote Tory, and they're probably not going to be today. Like I say, this is very, very much what we're probably about to see later on, is going to be a massive performative effort, both by Liz and Rishi. We're probably going to hear lots about their plans to solve the issue of the Northern Ireland protocol and what they intend to do. It'll be quite interesting. We'll see if any interesting questions got asked or anything like that. So we'll be going into that. But first, like I say, welcome. Wim, good morning to you. Good morning. Yeah, good day, whatever you want. Yeah, Wim, hello to you. Pretty Bird, greetings to you. And Chatty Rat, good evening to you as well. Like I say, do remember to say hellos in chat. Like I say, we will definitely get chatting and talking about this. But first, let's go over this audio, because I'm not sure how many have heard the complete thing. I've seen a lot of newspaper reports, but they don't sort of link to the audio. It's just in sort of writing or anything like that. But essentially, this is the infamous audio that has been leaking around Liz recently. And we don't know who did it. We don't know who recorded it. Maybe this was someone in the Rishi campaign. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know, but needless to say, if you know anything about what we've talked about before on this channel many a time, Britannia Unchained, and remember, Liz Truss was the key author, or at least one of the key authors, shall we say, of Britannia Unchained, because it was a sort of a series of essays by, at that time, new Conservative MPs trying to climb the ranks by, shall we say, showing off their credentials. And infamously now, that opening very plainly says that British workers are the worst idlers in the world because of all the protections that they enjoy. So, yeah, that was sort of the case. Oh, Dave, being a fairly new subscriber, why bowler hat man? Well, why bowler hat man? Because I actually have a bowler hat, but I don't wear it because it gets quite warm. And of course, this comes from years and years ago when I first named the channel years ago. But yeah, I just continued it, liked it, and sort of continued on with it, really. So let's get into this audio. We'll play the full thing for you so you can hear the full thing, and then we'll go back over it. So here we go. Like I say, it's not long.
Basically, British workers, I want to read about this, which got mischaracterized. But British workers produce less per hour, and that's a combination of kind of skill and application. And there's a, and it's very, if you look at productivity, it's very, very different in London from the rest of the country. But basically, no, because this has been a historical fact for decades. Essentially, it's partly a sort of mindset and attitude thing. Yeah, it's working culture. If you go to China, it's quite different. You know, there's a fundamental issue of British working culture. It's not, essentially, if we're going to be a richer country and a more prosperous country, that needs to change, but I don't think people are that keen to change that. So I think there's a slight thing in Britain about wanting easy answers, and I think that's my reflection on the election and what's gone for it. And the referendum is like you said, it's all Europe that's causing someone's migrants and living problems. Actually, what needs to happen is more graft, and it's not a popular message.
So yeah, quite interesting, I think. But that's the full thing. That is the full thing of the audio. And to be honest, it's quite revealing in a number of things. First of all, we all knew it. Liz Truss does not give a damn about workers. She doesn't really care about, why productivity is so different, versus sort of, the City of London versus the rest of the UK. But I'm pretty sure there was a piece out sort of early today talking about why she is so wrong. Actually, let's look at that. Let me just look for that for a second. See if we can find it. was hoping I could find it. I've seen it recently and I can't find it. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was why I read it in this one. Yeah, here it is. So this is the part here. So this is referring to sort of the the City of London comments, because this is what is worth talking about, really. So the only thing that Miss Truss gets right in her diatribe against working people is the assertion that Britain's productivity crisis goes back decades. But the case is not for a lack of appetite for hard work. British employees work longer hours than their German counterparts, for example. But as a result of a perennial lack of proper investment in skills and technology, their labour is less productive. And it is true that London is, and altogether to an unhealthy degree, more productive than the rest of the country, but this is due to governments since the 1980s placing all their bets on a financialized, service-based economy with the City of London at its heart. The rest of Britain, outside of major cities, has become disproportionately low wage and a low skilled environment. So that is really the situation that we are in. No one will dispute that we're not having, bad productivity, but that is because no one has really sort of done this, and that there has been this lack of investment in sort of skills and technology. I mean, you want a really good example of how bad like skills are trained in the country. You've got to look no further than how apprenticeships are handed out here in the UK. Apprenticeships could be an amazing opportunity for many people all up and down this country, not only to get like a good education, learn skills, and even a job after it. But the problem is that the big, large multinational companies, and we're talking big companies, tend to hoover up these apprenticeships, and then they don't train them properly, and they don't guarantee them a job afterwards. And I can tell you now, sort of knowing that the business community that I know in and around here in sort of South Yorkshire, there are a ton of like SMEs who are desperate to take on apprentices. But because of how the apprenticeship levy is weighed towards far, far bigger companies, they just can't take them on. And they would love to take, apprentices on and teach them and learn them, different trades, being not only just in like, building skills or anything like that. It's like, sometimes it's like, soft skills or, in IT or other parts of, the technology sector. They're just not, given outright. It's an absolute disaster, the entire apprenticeship thing. And it should be really a massive disgrace that, we talk about wanting to give these people, our apprenticeships, and everyone's always in favor of apprenticeships and how good they are about, getting people, good skills with their hands and whatnot, or, giving them the skills they need. But very often that's not the case. And if you've ever talked to anyone sort of in business, you know full well, especially in the UK, you know how bad sort of these are. And it's just an unfortunate fact. And it's something, once again, that if Liz Truss was actually serious about wanting to address this, then trying to address the apprenticeship levy will be a perfect place to start. But she's not interested in that. Again, we want more apprentices, which so far from what I've been at least able to take that as, is that they are just going to increase the apprenticeship levy, meaning that nothing really gets sorted. And, the apprentices go to sort of really big companies and can sometimes just get lost sort of in the system. And unfortunately, the businesses that really need apprentices who are willing to teach these people, not only just young people, but everyone else, apprenticeships aren't just for people between, the ages of 16 to 20. Apprenticeships should be open for everyone, and that's another thing that sort of needs to change, because that is something else that you see as well, that older people who go for apprentices don't have the access to the funds and other types of things that if a business took on someone younger than them, say someone who was 22 or something like that, they do not have the access to the same funds they might have if they took on someone who was, I don't know, maybe 35 or 30, or maybe even older than that. A lot of the stuff in the UK, if you've ever looked at sort of this, if you want sort of education or to go and be retrained, a lot of the stuff ends as soon as you hit 20 and starts to really tail off. And then there's almost nothing for people after 25. And then it's not until people hit 40 again does all of a sudden this money start coming back for education that they can take on. So it is a really big issue and something that we really need to tackle in this country, but we don't see that. And again, if Liz Truss really was serious and wanted to solve that skills gap, that would be a way to solve it. Although there is one comment that I think we need to go over. Let's see if we can find it.
British workers. I want to read about
this is a comment. I once wrote a book about this, which got mischaracterized. In a second. Here it is. So it's always so funny going back to this. So funny going back to this. So this was written all back in the days of 2012, and that seems such a long time ago. That's 10 years ago at this point. I mean, look how young Dominic Raab looks here. Look how young he looks in that photo. But as you can see, Wednesday, the 22nd of August, 2012. Britannia Unchained, the rise of the new Tory right. The talented and hardworking have nothing to fear, says Dominic Raab, a Conservative MP for Esher and Walton. With just the faintest hint of menace, it is an airiness and lazy day in the mid-August. The House of Commons cafe is half deserted, but Raab, firm-jawed and slightly gaunt, is a rising star of the Tory right. What a difference a decade makes. What a difference a decade makes. He is spending the parliamentary recess in the traditional manner of ambitious politicians, using the Westminster news vacuum to attract attention to himself and his ideas. Wearing jeans, the 38-year-old backbencher is talking wearily about transforming the British workplace. He thinks that current employment law offers excessive protection to workers. People who are coasting, it would be easier to let them go, to give then the unemployed a chance. It is a delicate balancing act, but it should be decided in favour of the latter. Oh dear. This was, you got to remember, this was written over 12 years ago. No, 10 years ago at this point. But yeah, not much has changed. Not much has changed at all. Oh, good evening, Jem. Good evening to you. Oh, Chthonic. Greetings to you as well. Oh, Cathology, I haven't seen you sneak in there as well, but greetings to you as well. So last Friday, a leaked fragment from a book co-written by Raab and 4 other Conservative MPs, one of them was Liz Truss, Britannia Unchained, The Global Lessons for Growth and Prosperity, due to be published next month, appeared in the London Evening Standard. The passage, red meat for phone-ins and columnists ever since the arguably less polite of an improved in our national work ethic. The British are among the worst idlers in the world. We work among the lowest hours, we retire early, and our productivity is poor. Whereas Indian children aspire to be doctors or businessmen, the British are more interested in football and pop music. So, remember, Liz Truss said, oh yeah, oh no, that was taken out of quote. That was taken out of context. British are amongst the worst idlers in the world. You take that with what was said in that leaked audio. Yeah, that wasn't taken out of context at all. That is what she generally thinks of British workers. So further detailed revelations about the book remain forbidden by a pre-publication embargo. Having read it, I can safely say that Britannia Unchained has a bevy of pace and scope that elevates it a little above the usual pre-party conference polemics. Britain sits at a crossroads which will define our place in the world for generations, begins one of its publishers' sales pitches. From our economy to our education system, to social mobility and social justice, we must learn the rules for the 21st century or we will face an inevitable slide into mediocrity. When I speak to Raab, again after the Evening Standard extract, he says it gave a skewed and inaccurate reflection of what is in the book. Yeah, over the last year, he and his co-authors, all of them members of a new Conservative parliamentary faction called the Free Enterprise Group, that didn't last long, have made little secret of the very harsh medicine they believe Britain needs to take. Last year, for example, Raab wrote a paper for the Centre of Policy Studies. Since the birth of Thatcherism is one of the radical right's fiercest think tanks, urging the definition of fair and dismal should be widened to encompass inadequate performance. This would help employers get the best from their staff. The paper also argued for the exempting small businesses from paying the minimum wage for the under 21s and the already less than lavish hourly sum of between £3.68 and £4.98. And of course, there's Liz Truss. Let's see if we can find where they talk about Liz Truss. Because obviously, you've got to remember at the time, Rab was the far bigger poll than Liz Truss. She's really only come to prominence since 2016. See, she isn't even quoted in here. This is how much Liz Truss has really shot to fame in like the past couple of years. It's insane, but yeah, of course, Priti Patel. God. What a very, very poor what a very, very poor prediction from all the way back in 2012. Priti Patel, a potential party leader? Question mark. So this is interesting. Here we have Truss admires the German economy, but often the foreign model, cited are Asian, and the underlying message for Britons is relentless. Raw capitalism is the only game in town, and you only need to start working much harder. We can all graft, says Rab. Yeah, let's see if Liz gets mentioned somewhere else. But yeah. This is this really hasn't changed, honestly. Those are Truss's comments from over 10 years ago now at this point, back in 2012. All goes back to Britannia Unchained. All goes back to Britannia Unchained. And the other interesting point, I think, still worth sharing. I'm surprised. I don't know how much or why this hasn't taken a bigger interest as well. Here it is. This is the part.
There's a fundamental issue of British working culture. It's not essentially, if we're going to be a richer country and a more prosperous country, that needs to change. But I don't think people are that keen to change that. So I think there's a slight thing in Britain about wanting easy answers.
I like that. I like that a lot. There's a slight thing in Britain about wanting easy answers. Well, maybe, Liz, you shouldn't be feeding people the easy answers and start maybe telling them the truth. Maybe start telling them that. And what's very interesting is what comes next, because this is the part I think is even more revealing.
And I think that's my reflection on the election and what's gone before it. And the referendum, it's like we say it's all Europe that's causing these problems. So it's migrants that are causing these problems. And actually, what needs to happen is more more graft.
So bear in mind what Liz Truss just said there. So I don't think people are keen to actually change that. So I think there's a slight thing in Britain about wanting easy answers. I think that's, my reflection, the election and what's gone before it, and in the referendum. And this is it. It's like you say it's all Europe that's causing all these problems. It's all the migrants that's causing problems. But actually what needs to happen is, a bit more graft. You've just had Liz Truss admit there that Britain's problems were not caused by the EU. You've just had Liz Truss admit there that the problems caused by Britain, so this goes all the way back to since 2016, all of Britain's problems were not caused by the EU. They were not caused by migrants. The two things that the Tory party and the very far right of the party of which she is a part have constantly been banging on about as one of the certainly the two twin evils and all the problems for Britain's woes at the moment. That is an astounding admission. That is an absolute astounding admission coming from Liz Truss. Because if Europe wasn't our problem or causing all these problems, why did we leave it? Why all the fixation then on wanting to get rid of all these, EU regulations? If Europe wasn't a problem, why are you so fixated on getting rid of this stuff? Now, she'll probably say, oh, these are all, stopping workers, I don't know, achieving their full productivity, or it's stopping, it's holding businesses back. Didn't really seem to be holding businesses back when we're in the EU. If anything, at the moment, the Brexit and the thing that you want to push for, this massive deregulation, isn't really what seems to be wanted by a lot of the British public when you ask them. So this, I think that's the most damning part. Liz Truss calling British workers lazy it's not new, Liz Truss has done that before. She co-authored an entire book about it. That's not new. What's new here is that you have a prime minister, or a potential prime minister, because let's face it, she's going to win at this point. Like I say, this audio does not hurt Liz Truss now. This audio hurts Liz Truss in the future, but it does not hurt her now, because pretty much all the Tories, upon this being released, are going, yes, I agree. British workers are lazy. But you've just had quite probably the next Prime Minister of the UK admit in audio that Britain wants easy answers, which she is more than happy to dole out. We're going to hear her dole out all those easy answers when we come to the hustings in a bit. But she also went on to say, yeah, the problems of the UK weren't caused by Europe and they weren't caused by migrants. And as we said earlier, two of the big main points of the Tory right and who they have been blaming all of the UK's problems on. That piece of audio right there, far more damning than anything else. And I cannot understand why, as you are right, Jem, yeah, they're not focusing on those comments. And I think they should be focusing on those comments. Because as soon as Liz Truss gets in, she will be blaming the EU. And I think any Labour candidate, any Labour MP at the forthcoming Prime Minister's question times, where it will probably be Liz Truss, standing, at the plinth with a bat, every Labour MP should get their ball, wrap these very comments, and just start throwing it at her every single time she tries to blame the EU or Europe for Britain's woes. That is an incredible attack line. I hope that happens. It will be incredibly successful. And it just goes to show you the reality of Liz Truss, the populist, who doesn't really believe what she's saying, probably being fed all these lines by numerous think tanks, numerous groups throughout there. And they're going to be engaging in them. Going to be engaging them massively. But yeah, going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. And like I say, this audio doesn't hurt Liz Truss now. If anything, this helps Liz Truss even more win the current Tory leadership race. But this audio hinders her and damages her in the run-up to the next general election. Absolutely. This, we've already said the Rishi Sunak comments will be played, ad nauseum and should be played continuously in the run-up from now until the general election. Well, Labour should be saving this definitely somewhere. And I do hope they do. Because this will come back to bite Liz. Because it is not this contest where these comments hurt her. It's the general election. Because if Liz Truss tries to blame Europe, tries to blame migrants on UK's problems, you just throw her own words right back at her. So that's Liz Truss's audio. Not going to hurt her yet. As I say it again, it's going to aid her. But the next general election, that's when it might start to have a bit of an issue with her then. So let's watch. Like I say, get your popcorn, sit yourselves comfortably, because we've got an hour and 15. We can get this done. We can get this done. We can get this done, I think, within an hour. So, yeah. Let's go. We'll tell you what, we'll speed it up a bit because they normally talk quite slow.
The members really put the two candidates through their paces and asked some very searching questions. So I ask you today to make your questions searching, to make them succinct, and to ask questions and not to make statements. And one question each, please, so that more of the audience have an opportunity to grill our candidates. Both of our candidates have a duty and a desire to fulfil our 2019 manifesto. Their differences will be how to go about that in a very different world from 2019. Post-Brexit, post-COVID, in uncertain times internationally. Look at Ukraine and Taiwan. And whereas you know here, our union as a nation is being challenged. So I'm sure you want to test our candidates, to seek to establish their strengths and to see who you think is capable of running our great country. As we're all Conservatives here, I know that you'll all be respectful of our two candidates.
Where are they? They're in Belfast. This is the leadership hustings that took place early today in Belfast. Just so you know. Oh, hang on, wrong one.
And keep your questions positive. There are just over 2 weeks left to vote. If you haven't already voted, then you can cast your vote online or by post. It's very easy to vote online, or you can choose traditional snail mail. And if you do post, then please remember to put a stamp on your envelope.
Hang on.
Back on stage and invite questions from the floor. If you want to ask a question, we'll go straight into questions after the opening statement. If you raise your hand clearly so I can see you, I will then signal to one of the people wearing the very fashionable white.
Tell you what, we won't go over Rishi Sunak. We'll just cover Liz Truss. It does she does look like she was up first. So we're just going to cover Liz Truss purely for the fact that, well, at this point, let's face it, she's going to win. This contest is Liz Truss to win. How many people in attendance? Probably very, very little in attendance. Remember, this is in Northern Ireland. In the last Stormont election, the Tory party stood in 4 seats, and their highest scoring candidate took 27 votes. So yeah, you can just see how popular the Tories are over in Northern Ireland. So yeah, there is not a lot of people in attendance.
White hoodies to come over to you with a microphone. At the start of the question, if you can say who you are and where you're from, and then if you can ask your question. If you can keep your question brief, that would be very much appreciated. The briefer the questions, the more of you will get an opportunity to ask a question. So with no further ado, will you please give a warm welcome to the first candidate, Liz Truss.
Well, here she is.
Hi everybody, it's fantastic to be here in Northern Ireland. I was brought up in Paisley in Scotland, in Leeds in Yorkshire. So I guess you could say I'm a child of the Union. And I believe that our union...
Like I say, I think that's quite a bit of a bold way to go, because the word really union if you think in sort of mainland terms, not Northern Ireland terms, has a very, very different context to if you were to say that in Northern Ireland. And I'm sure people from Northern Ireland can attest to that fact.
Is one of the key assets we have as a country. We're not just neighbours, we're family. And I want our family to stay together and never, ever to split up. And Northern Ireland is a key part of our fantastic union. And ever since I've been a minister in this government, I've promoted our fantastic farm products here from Northern Ireland around the world, and as Trade Secretary, struck dozens of new trade deals to benefit the businesses and consumers here in Northern Ireland. And since
again, we've been over those trade deals many, many a time. No trade expert agrees with you, Liz. No trade expert agrees with you on that statement. So, yeah.
becoming Foreign Secretary, I have taken on the issue of the Northern Ireland Protocol and seek to resolve the issues that we face. Because the fact is that the protocol is undermining the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. It is causing unfairness.
No, it is not. Those who saw me, maybe, what was it? Yeah, it was like, well, it was it last month, 2 months ago now? I was on with on the Sunday brunch with David Heggie. He's a trade expert, and one of his trade expert areas is in Northern Ireland. If you may remember, he pulled down his book, and showed off, this is my text on on Northern Ireland, and he showed us the full text. And he went on to say, anyone who says that it's incompatible with the Belfast Agreement, Good Friday Agreement, is completely wrong. It's written into the very text for it to be compatible with that agreement. So that's an out-and-out lie. I know they'll be taking questions from the audience, but I doubt anyone in the audience will actually question her on that, which I wish someone would. I don't know what happened in the question in the question section, but we'll get there. See what questions she ends up fielding.
Between the communities in Northern Ireland, and we need to make sure it is fixed for the future of this great part of the United Kingdom. We need to sort out the laws. The UK needs to be the ultimate arbiter. The UK courts need to be the ultimate arbiter. We need to sort out the bureaucracy across the Irish Sea so that we can see goods flowing freely from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. And that's why I put forward the solution of the green and the red lanes. We also need to sort out...
The green and the red lanes is not going to solve the problem. We've talked at length many, many times about how the DUP have stated very, very clearly they do not want a border in the Irish Sea. That includes Liz's red lane, green lane idea, which we are doing, by the way, unilaterally, not even consulting the EU about how this is actually going to run and operate, and to make sure that vehicles that do go or that are meant to be going to Northern Ireland don't end up in the EU. Yeah, yeah, I like the imaginary box she's holding. Very true. She doesn't know what to do with her hands. It's very true.
Regulation. And we need to make sure that the people of Northern Ireland can benefit from the same tax breaks as the people of Great Britain. Now, I worked hard.
The Northern Irish economy is, bar London, doing far, far better than any other region in the UK. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that it's still in the single market and customs union. And one of the reasons why I think the Brexiteers are so desperate to pull Northern Ireland out of that is because they do not want a test case. They do not want an area where you can go, oh, look, this area was in the single market customs union. Look how well it's doing compared to the rest of the UK. And I think that's a large part of it. I really do.
To get a resolution with the EU on this issue. It wasn't forthcoming, but I'm not somebody who's prepared to let the situation drift. That's why I developed the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill. I pushed it through Whitehall. We got it through the House of Commons, and I am absolutely determined to deliver it in full and make sure it's put into place, because this is vital for the future of Northern Ireland and the future of the United Kingdom.
I hope, and I am hopeful, that the Lords stop it. I've said many times before on this channel, I'm not a fan of the House of Lords. I would like to massively reform it to a point where the House of Lords, as it exists, does no longer exist, and change it drastically to an elected system of elected officials where they actually, have to be voted in to have a seat, and they would pretty much, perform the exact same duty as the current House of Lords. At least they'd then be elected officials. But in this case, I am quite hopeful. I am very, very hopeful that the Lords are going to stop the protocol bill. We will have to see. Because we've seen in the past them use some very, very sneaky tactics to try and sneak bills through the House of Lords. But this is certainly one bill that the House of Lords are going to have to certainly put a stop against. And it would really be, again, something to sort of complain about. Sort of the pro-EU movement needs to act on this. They need to start a letter writing campaign to Lords. And you can do that very easily. You can do it by sending emails. So they need to up that, and they need to start a letter writing campaign as soon as possible and start sending letters to the Lords in there to say, hey, you need to stop this bill. You cannot allow this bill through. It is a disaster bill that will cause a trade war between the EU and the UK. And that will not be at all in the best interests of the UK economy, where we are already drastically lagging behind. Oh, good evening, Lefty Boater.
Also determined to make sure we address the issues of legacy too. We need to make sure that every part of our great country thrives. And that's about making sure people have opportunities, regardless of their background, regardless of which part of the United Kingdom they're from.
So put money into actually make a serious attempt at leveling up. Also, by the way, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to use the excuse that those comments made by Rishi Sunak were when he was at the Treasury. Well, Liz was also in the cabinet when those proposals were being made, where Rishi was doing his reverse Robin Hooding, stealing from the poor while giving to the rich. Liz was in cabinet. Liz should be called out for why she didn't stand up against Rishi for that. Because that will continue under her premiership. Leveling up is not going to work. She'll make a big song and dance about it, just like Boris Johnson did, but leveling up is not happening.
We need to become an aspiration nation. But the fact is, we do face difficult economic challenges. We do face a global energy crisis. And that is why we can't have business as usual. That is why we need to be bold. See, what I will do is I will unlock the opportunities of Brexit. I will make sure that we have free ports here in Northern Ireland. I will make sure that we have more trade deals. And I will make sure all of the EU laws are off our statute books by the end of 2023. I'll also lower...
Oh, my word. So, promising free ports in Northern Ireland. We could have done them when we're in the EU. There was nothing stopping us doing that. The reason why we do not do these free ports is because they have proven time and time again to be a really bad idea. You also had the promise there to eliminate all these EU statutes by 2023. What does that mean? Is she going to do the whole sunset clause thing, saying, all these clauses just naturally end in 2023? Is she mad enough to do that? Is she mad enough to do that? Of course she is. That's going to be a big worry, because a lot of these regulations are very, very common sense. Like the chemical industry, a basic common sense, you know. Your lorry that is carrying, you know, your very toxic and deadly chemicals, for example, cannot go above a certain speed and must be regularly safety checked to make sure that there is no accident in these types of lorries and vehicles. Because if you have a massive spillage of one of these, you know, type of tankers, they can cause huge environmental damage. This happens on a regular basis in America. And trust me, don't believe me, go look it up. It's shocking. We haven't had one in the UK for decades. But she wants to remove those regulations which protect those things. And of course, this is going to be a disaster for her, because she's going to have to fight and justify why you're going to get rid of some of these basic common sense regulations. Oh, it's an EU law, we have to get rid of it. Well, hold on a second. This law makes perfect common sense. Why are you trying to get rid of it? The simple answer is because Liz Truss is a free market fundamentalist. She wants to completely get rid of all regulations, regardless of whether it was an EU one or even made by the UK in the UK Parliament. She does not really care.
Taxes. We shouldn't have put up national insurance. We said we wouldn't in our manifesto, and I will have a temporary moratorium on the green energy levy to make sure that customers' bills are lower. And as for corporation tax, we shouldn't be putting it up to the same level as France.
So getting rid of the green energy levy does next to nothing to energy bills. It takes, I think, like £1. And remember, energy bills are rising to a ridiculous extent where we're seeing £3,000 to £4,000 of people having to pay their energy bills. That, you know, and Liz Truss is talking about taking off £1. That's her solution to this crisis. Labour recently put out a far more comprehensive one, a far more comprehensive plan to solve the energy crisis. But there you go. Yeah, Mithril. Yeah, I like my motorbikes. I like my motorbikes. I'm rather fond of the regs governing my safety gear. Exactly. It's stuff like that. You know, people really do not, I think, appreciate what regulations really do. And I think we're going to go into that. If Liz Truss seriously wants to do this and get rid of all those regulations like she claims, we're going to have to go into, like, okay, this is why you have this regulation. Now, some might be relatively straightforward. Well, you have these regulations on, as Mithro pointed out, your, you know, bike safety equipment to essentially prove that it not only prove that it works, so it can be sold as safety equipment, but actually shown that that safety equipment actually does what it sets out to do. But you're also going to see a lot of very technical regulations have to be addressed as well, which are going to be quite complicated to try and explain to the general public, unless there are people in the general public who really are aware of that. So one of them will ultimately be GDPR. That will be certainly a nightmare for the services industries. You're going to see chemical regulations. They're another big one. Manufacturing, workers' rights, all sorts of stuff that we are going to have to sort of fight, and it's going to be very, very hard to do.
And to higher, 10 points higher than the Republic of Ireland, because that will make it harder to secure the investment that we.
So that's another point. We'll just rewrite, because it's worth pointing out this tax thing as well. Let me just make sure we've got it.
We shouldn't be putting it up to the same level as France, and to higher, 10 points higher than the Republic of Ireland, because.
So he's talking about having low taxes, basically, and the whole this whole idea of having low taxes is, once again, it's trickle down economics. We've seen for years the fact that trickle down economics does not seem to work, at least in the way that the Conservatives claim that trickle down economics seems to work. We do not see businesses coming to the UK to invest because of lower taxes. If not, then why did every single British business not move over to the Republic of Ireland? Because for years, the Republic of Ireland has had the lowest corporation tax out of all, and we mean out of all of the EU countries. We didn't see a rush of businesses desperately running over there, because that's not why businesses go over there. Not only that, but you've also had Biden's recent assertion that we need to, on the world level, set an acceptable, or at least a unilateral corporation tax. I think was Biden setting it at like 15 or 12% or something like that? I can't remember now. And a lot of countries were agreeing with him that, because if you set the corporation tax even up by 1%, the government takes in a lot of extra revenue.
That will make it harder to secure the investment that we need to into our country. So I will keep corporation tax low, because I believe as a Conservative that we are about rewarding people who do the right thing, people who work hard, people who set up their own businesses, people who are self-employed.
But what about people in business who don't do the right thing? How are you going to protect the workers from those businesses exploiting them from not doing the right thing? Would be a fantastic question to ask Liz there.
Those are the people whose side we should be on. We, of course, need to continue to stand up to Vladimir Putin. I'm proud that we were the first country in Europe to send weapons to Ukraine. And some of those weapons were produced here in Northern Ireland, the famous NLAWs. But we also need to make sure that we are looking after our defence and security, because Europe is more insecure. That's why I would increase defence spending to 3% of GDP over the coming decade. And as Foreign Secretary, I put the toughest sanctions on Russia of any country in the world.
But not on the people who should be sanctioned, and still today not really seem to be interested in investigating some of the links that the Tory party seems to have to a lot of these Russian money donors. Doesn't seem to be really, investigating in that. And okay, she wants to keep on sending Ukraine weapons. Great, got no problem with that. Good on Liz for that. That's a good, sensible foreign policy statement. Increasing defense spending. Okay, makes sense, of course, with the realization that, Russia is once again sort of becoming a threat, as we've seen with the Ukraine. But doing that at the same time while trying to lower taxes Where are you going to get all the money, Liz, for this defence budget rise? Where's that money going to come from?
We also need to make sure we're protecting our country from illegal immigration. That's why I would legislate to make sure that the ECHR cannot overrule decisions made democratically here in the United Kingdom. And we need to protect freedom and democracy here in the United Kingdom as well as overseas. There's been too much identity politics, too much talking our country down.
What about Russia, when there's been very clear evidence that there has been interference in this? Are we going to look into some links between what happened with Johnson and Lebedev? Are we going to find out about that? Nope, guess not. You know, it's all those woke nonsense. That's what we need to be talking about. Ignore the fact that, you know, there's that party going on with Lebedev going on in the background. Just ignore that. Just ignore our ties to Russia and all that Russian money we took. Just ignore that.
Very clear, a woman is a woman. And I will make sure we protect our single-sex spaces, our domestic violence shelters, and we protect women's rights. But most of all, I will make sure we protect our precious United Kingdom. I've shown I can deliver as Trade Secretary, as Foreign Secretary, and I now want to deliver for the United Kingdom. And I want to deliver with the Northern Ireland Conservatives. I will make sure they are an integral part of our campaign. They're an integral part of the work that we do as government, so that we are unlocking potential and opportunity right across the United Kingdom, here in Northern Ireland, so we can go on and we can win the general election in 2024. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So that was Liz's opening speech. Roundabout roughly what I expected, to be honest. Roundabout roughly what I expected. A lot of offering of nonsense, lots of giving into popularity politics, some, of course, things that she says would have very serious consequences. Doesn't really seem to be thinking about what those consequences might actually be. Yeah. A meme fest. Yeah. You are certainly right there. It is a bit of a meme fest. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, this happened today. So this is like the freshest leadership election speeches you can hear right now. So, yeah. I think they're going to question and answer now. So we'll hear what questions she gets filled and what her answers to those questions are.
Wonderful. If I can see a show of hands of who wants to go with the first question, and I'm going to start right at the back. So centre aisle, there's a gentleman in a blue shirt there. If we can send the microphone to him. There we go, sir. Yes.
Good afternoon. Terry Medill from Southampton Conservative Association. I note in your speech that you didn't mention the stalemate in Stormont. I'd like to ask you, if you are elected Prime Minister, what will you do to restore a democratic government in this part of the world that is not held hostage over this side of the hour, please?
It's the DUP who are holding Stormont hostage. They're the ones who are refusing to go into power because of one thing and one thing alone. That is the Northern Ireland Protocol. And they have said multiple times multiple times. We do not want a border between the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, shall we say, just to get it right, Northern Ireland, and the rest of the UK. That includes Liz Truss's wacky idea of putting 2 lanes in. They want it gone completely. So they're throwing their toys out of the pram now. They'll be throwing their toys out of the pram in a couple of weeks' time, because we're entering very, very soon, I think in the next couple of months, we are entering for Stormont another potential scenario where they could go into another general election. And of course, we'll have to see what happens, but it is very likely that they will come in second again. Very, very likely that they will come in second again. And once again, they will refuse to take up their seats in Stormont. So let's hear what Liz has to say, knowing that that is the case. Let's hear what she has to say, if anything, about the DUP.
Well, this is exactly what I have been working on with.
Oh.
We are not going to get Stormont back.
That was annoying. Sorry. Yes, they appear to have technical difficulties. So unfortunately, we don't get to hear a full response to that. That's a bit depressing.
We are not going to get Stormont back up and running. And I've been in discussions with all of the parties in Northern Ireland. I'm determined to make it happen. And as we make progress on the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, we will see power sharing re-established in Northern Ireland, and as well, the Belfast Good Friday Agreement re-established.
No, you won't. No, you won't at all. The DUP have made it very clear, as we've said, they do not want a border in the Irish Sea. They do not want at all the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. They would quite happily see a hard land border return between them and the Republic. That is their ultimate goal. To vengeance. Why is my anger so angry? Yeah. This is the state, and this, by the way, this is once again the fault of the Conservative Party. It was the members of the ERG who egged on the DUP to do this. And then it was those very people who then threw the DUP under the bus. Dan O'Connell, yep. I disagree. Isn't because the DUP don't want the Northern Ireland Protocol. No, it is. I'm sorry there, Dan. I disagree. You listen to any of the speeches, any of the talks, even before the general election, it was to do with the protocol. It doesn't matter that they're no longer numero uno in Northern Ireland. They will and would do that regardless. It's that if they're here in that position, they actually have more power to push back against the Northern Ireland Protocol. If they came in first, they would take up their seat. And of course, Stormont would run and they would talk about how bad the Northern Ireland Protocol is and, oh, it's so bad. But if they come second, all of a sudden, they have a huge amount of power. They have a huge amount of power to say, we are not going to take up our seats until the Northern Ireland Protocol is gone. They've said it multiple times. They want the Northern Ireland Protocol gone. They do not want a border in the Irish Sea, and they are prepared. They are prepared to just start crisis after crisis until they get what they want. They are zealots who have been emboldened by the Conservatives, by the ERG to do this. They are acting like spoilt children. And if Liz Truss had any genuine sense about her, she would actually be calling out the DUP. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get to hear her full answer. So maybe she did blame the DUP, but I very much doubt it. But that is who is at fault here. That is why there is no power sharing. The Northern Ireland Protocol is working. It's just the British government is refusing to implement parts of it. And they themselves are trying to make sure that it doesn't work because, as we said just a few moments ago, if you've got Northern Ireland, which, bear in mind, it already is, outperforming other areas of the country, except London, of course, because, well, London's London. It is outperforming other areas of the country. Why? Because it is in the single market and customs union. Part of all this is to try and drag them out completely of that so that there is no test case, so that no one can turn around and go, what if we were all part of the single market and customs union? Because Northern Ireland seems to be doing really well. Why aren't we in that as well? They do not want anyone to bring that up. That is their aim. That is their goal. That is on the Brexiteers side. And the DUP are more than happy to aid the Brexiteers in that. Because A, they get to try and tear down the border in the Irish Sea. As we've said multiple times, you've got to have a border somewhere. You can't have it between the north of Ireland and the Republic because of the Good Friday Agreement. So where are you going to have it? You are either A, solve this problem instantly by being in the customs union and single market, solves this problem instantly overnight by doing that, or you have the border in the Irish Sea. And the DUP know it. And oh boy, don't they know it. So anyway, let's see what the second question is.
Thank you. And then if we go to another gentleman, central aisle, you, sir, yes, the microphone's just coming to you now.
Hi, thank you for coming to Northern Ireland. You're very welcome here. I'm Urban Armstrong, past chair of the Conservative Party in Northern Ireland, and I've been a member of the party for over a quarter of a century, and there are others in the audience today who've been here longer than I have. And we've all worked to promote cross-community politics that believes in the union, and as the only party that organises in all of the union, I think we haven't had the support in Northern Ireland that we have deserved. It has been intermittent. There have been deals with the EUP, deals with the UUP. What commitment will you give to support, both with people and financially, the party to allow to properly develop in future?
Well, I think you are.
Okay, that's very interesting. So that was more a, hey, why have you dealt with those crazy, much larger parties, because they are, to gain power? So this is going to be an interesting response to Liz Truss, because this would have to be that the Conservative Party would actually have to start spending money on campaigns to essentially start to win votes from people in Northern Ireland to essentially vote for them. Bear in mind, in one seat, they got 27 votes. Not exactly a lot.
Absolutely right that the Conservative Party of Northern Ireland hasn't received the support that it should have done over the years. And what I'm committed to is making sure the Conservative Party of Northern Ireland are a key part of my team, that they get the resources they need to attract new members. And it's great news that we're seeing more members join the Conservative Party, but also that we're putting more candidates up for election here in Northern Ireland, because we are the Conservative and Unionist Party. We believe in a union, and we need to put that I am somebody who has visited Northern Ireland a lot. I have visited.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Doubt it. Liz Truss's hands, to emphasise the bigness of the point I am trying to make, while making my hands small to bring you in, and then making them bigger again to emphasise the point, while bringing them back in again and talking very neatly. No. Yeah. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, very human in your stance. Yeah. Lizbot is learning. It's learning. It's learning how to be human. Oh yes, I didn't know before today either. Cathal, the Tory party had a presence in Northern Ireland. I didn't notice that today either. This was a new one to me as well.
In Scotland a lot. I have visited Wales a lot. I'm very, very committed to delivering for the whole United Kingdom, and I believe in it. And I will work with you to really make things happen for the Conservative Party here in Northern Ireland.
There was another gentleman in the centre aisle.
That was probably a lot of guff, but that really needs to be, rather than, well, it is obviously a leader, because she's going to be the leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party, but that is sort of more a question for the Tory conference really to answer. Like, why aren't you, supporting the Tory party in Northern Ireland? Because we won't win there is really the question, and it will be wasted money that they would much rather spend trying to keep their seats and defending against the Lib Dems, certainly at the next general election.
Here, just wait for 10 seconds. There you go.
Glenn Chambers from East Belfast. It doesn't seem that likely to me, but if the EU did come back with some sort of compromise on the protocol that was nonetheless well short of the protocol bill, would you accept that? And secondly, are we going to have to wait a year for the protocol bill to actually become law as it goes through the House of Lords?
So I will not accept.
This will be interesting.
Anything that doesn't deliver on the key issues I talked about. So making sure that UK courts are the ultimate arbiter, making sure that we have free-flowing east-west trade, making sure that the people of Northern Ireland can benefit from the tax benefits delivered by the government, the UK government, but also sorting out the regulatory system so businesses can operate according to UK law or EU law, depending on where the export market is. And that was what I set out to Maros Sefcovic at the beginning of the year. I was very clear that that is what was needed to restore the balance of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and to get the institutions in Northern Ireland back up and running. So I won't.
So this was the very deal that Liz Truss, just a couple of months ago, was crowing about it being oven ready. That is what she's really on about. This deal, which I backed 100% and believed in, and campaigned for, and was said was wonderful, and said was oven ready, saying how wonderful a deal it really was. Liz once again trying to sound like the hard man, saying I'm not going to back down to the EU, but ultimately, that is what we're going to have to do. That is really what we're going to have to do, because we cannot win in a trade war against the EU. Full stop.
Accept anything less than that. It might take time to get this bill through the House of Lords, but the sooner we start, the sooner we'll finish. And I'm determined to get it done as.
I hope it doesn't get through the House of Lords, but then again, the Lords have shown that that's probably where all the sense seems to be in British politics nowadays, especially even the Conservatives. That's where all the sensible discussions around Brexit have ever seemed to happen, going all the way back to 2016, even discussing the triggering of Article 50 back in the day. It was the only sensible place where conversations in around Brexit and the consequences of the decisions of Brexit have actually seemed to be talked about. And I'll give the Lord's credit where credit is due. Good on them for doing that and making sure those conversations happen, because I'll tell you what, they certainly haven't happened in the House of Commons.
As quickly as possible. And what I expect is the House of Lords will see the fact that this bill has got a strong mandate from the House of Commons, and they will understand that this is a priority for the government to deliver.
Great. I'll go to the gentleman over there.
Roger Gilpin from Belfast. We've seen over a number of years bold comments about the Union. And when we get a Secretary of State or a Prime Minister coming in, they automatically end up in the NIO and kowtow to running us like a colonial outpost. Latterly, we've been actually bowing to the wishes of nationalism and are now being bossed about by international bodies in the EU, the Republic of Ireland and America. If you're elected leader, what commitment can you give to us that can be demonstrable after you're elected, that you will not kowtow and that you will lay down conservative and unionist politics in Northern Ireland?
Well, I ask you to judge me on my record. I took on responsibility for negotiating the Northern Ireland Protocol, and against a lot of advice in Whitehall, and against the wishes of some of the people that you've mentioned. And I would be very clear with people like Nancy Pelosi exactly what I think about this and exactly what we need to do.
And America will come and slap you down, Liz. It's not a case of, it's very likely if the EU go, what you're doing here is endangering the peace process. America is not going to be happy. America may ultimately themselves decide to join in on those economic sanctions, because even they understand that what is going on here with these renegotiations, this trying to change the Northern Ireland Protocol, isn't really the EU's fault. We are doing it unilaterally without sitting down and trying to negotiate them. Remember the conversation that we had a couple of months ago now, on the Sunday brunch with David Heggie. He said it very cleanly and plainly. Look, all these problems that we're having at the Northern Ireland border can all be sorted. The UK government just has to be willing to sit down and negotiate. But that is not what we see. Oh, David, welcome to the Pony Club. Welcome. By the way, Dave, since you are new to the Pony Club, they do have a series of member-only videos that people from the Pony Club, and if you are supporting me on Patreon, you will get to see. So do remember to go check those out. And of course, you now have, as you can see there, you've got a little badge next to your name. You also get access to emojis that you can use in the chat as well. So enjoy those. And like I say, the more members we get, the more emojis I will get to sort of make in the future. So yes, welcome on board. Welcome to the Pony Club. Saddle on up, my friend.
I have got on with delivering this. People said it wouldn't be possible. People said we wouldn't be able to get a mandate in the House of Commons. We got that mandate. And this bill is absolutely legal because we need to do it in order to restore the...
This bill is not legal. It goes against the full treaty that we signed with the EU when it came to discussing about Northern Ireland. This deal we signed was meant to be fully perfect and deliverable. I wish someone in the audience would call her out on that. But of course, no one dare call her out on that because all the Conservatives are falling for this nonsense, unfortunately. But what are you going to do? Maybe, who knows? I doubt it. But maybe one day we can hope that at least maybe one day the moderates in the Conservative Party will take the party back from these right-wing nutcases like Liz Truss and Jacob Rees-Mogg and the ERG, etc., etc. And then at least maybe some normalcy will be resolved or at least restored to British politics. But even then, the Tories will still Tory. They just won't be as bad Tories. Well, they will still be bad, but not this bad, you know?
primacy of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. On every single challenge I have faced in government, whether it is getting the trade deals done, whether it's the Northern Ireland Protocol, whether it's changing the sanctions regime, I'm not somebody who has gone backwards or taken no for an answer. I'm somebody who's got on and delivered it, and I've delivered on every single.
So, in Liz's first year, how many U-turns do you think Liz Truss will do? Oh, Veet Crew, hello to you. Oh, and Chris Fisher, I didn't see you come in there as well, so hello to you. How many U-turns do you think Liz Truss is going to do? I think she's going to do a number. She's going to have to U-turn on the cost of living crisis. She's going to have to, get the government involved by, helping out and getting in there. That's going to be a massive U-turn. That's all going to come in November. We've talked about that before. She's going to U-turn on this because both the EU and the US are going to turn around and go, what the hell do you think you're doing? What the hell do you think you're doing on this, Yeah. You are right, Casper Northerner. Yeah, if you remember, David Frost continuously threatening to trigger Article 16. Never happened. Why? Because he daren't pull the trigger. Neither Johnson would either. As much as Frost threatened to pull it, the gun of Article 16 was locked away in a completely different building, and so was the key as well. He would never, ever pull that trigger. And Liz Truss might be crazy, but when she's leader, maybe she'll have some home truths explained to her by the civil service and what chaos she's probably about to cause. But we'll see. Oh, hello, Mitch. Hello to you. Yes, they are very condescending, aren't they, Mitch?
Promise I've made.
Wonderful. There is a lady over there with a hand up at the moment. If we can get a microphone, please.
Thank you. Northern Ireland has a long history of shipbuilding and has built many warships. Current defence spend is £30 per person per capita in Northern Ireland. This compares with 360 per person per capita in Scotland and much more in England. Will you commit to levelling up defence spend in Northern Ireland and support the revitalisation of shipbuilding here in Belfast?
Well, we have a fantastic shipbuilding tradition and a great tradition here in Northern Ireland.
Bit of a defensive question. Again, if Liz Truss is serious about increasing defense spending, it's not just a case of building the ships, it's also about manning the ships as well, and paying for all the seamen to, yes, I just realized what I've just said. It's paying for all, it's paying for all the crews. It's paying for all the crews to man those ships. Don't be rude, Dutch. Yeah, don't be. Yes, Graphonic. Don't have such a filthy mind. But yeah, it's paying for those crews as well, to man those ships as well, which also costs money. And even then, if you rebuild sort of the shipbuilding industry, where are you going to sort of rebuild those ships? What are you exactly sort of going to do? Glasgow recently, I think it was Glasgow, won a massive contract to build destroyers up there through BA, because that's essentially what she's asking in this question. Will it happen? Doubtful. I doubtful that is going to sort of increase, shall we say, in the near future. But we'll see what a response is. Oh, hello, David. Hello to you.
And of course, part of what we need to do is increase the defence budget, which I am committed to. But we also need to deliver levelling up. And levelling up for me is also about making sure that Northern Ireland gets the opportunities it deserves. So I talked earlier about free ports, and it's been too slow, frankly, to deliver a free port in Northern Ireland. I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to giving Northern Ireland those tax benefits so we can see more opportunities, more jobs, including in the shipbuilding industry.
So if you're a business and you're in the free port, and your main export is to the EU, congratulations, because of the level playing field rules, you probably have to pay a higher tariff, and your goods probably cannot be sold in the EU because of the level playing field rule that we signed up to under the terms and conditions in the withdrawal agreement, and what we're in the trade and cooperation agreement as well. So if Liz Truss is serious about that, probably expect that to be a big thing in the future as well.
Great. There's a gentleman, I think he's got maybe a yellow handkerchief in his hand, if we can get a microphone. To you, sir.
Roger Lomas from West Tyrone. If you're Prime Minister, it'll be your choice as to who the next Secretary of State is. Will that Secretary of State, like the Secretary of State for Scotland and Wales, be committed to here, in the sense of, will they be accountable to the electorate, or are you just going to give us another fly-in, fly-out, absentee political landlord?
Well, look, I don't want to be premature. We're still in the middle of this leadership race. And what I can assure you...
Oh, don't be coy, Liz. You've won this race already. You know, you've won this race. Just admit that you've won the race, goddammit. Just because she's won. I'm sorry, she's won. I am 90% certain she's going to win. And unless some big scandal breaks or something like that, and we've already covered the Liz Truss audio leaks earlier on in this video, that audio is not going to hurt her, at least not in this election. We'll probably do in a general election, but not this election, because there are probably a lot of those Tories in that audience who were nodding along when they heard those comments going, yes, I agree. British workers do need to graft more. So we'll see.
About everybody I would appoint in the cabinet is it will be based on how good they are at doing the job and whether they get things done. And we've been talking today about the important things we've got to deliver in Northern Ireland. We've got...
Who's that going to be? Because I very much agree. By the way, fantastic podcast recommendation. Everything is Politics with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. And a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about this. There is a massive dearth of talent in the Conservative Party. A massive dearth of talent. Why? Because Boris Johnson in 2019 kicked out pretty much all the competent people because they were all moderate Tories who did not want a hard Brexit that Boris Johnson was selling. And they pushed back against it, so they had the election and they were gone. Since then, massive dearth of talent, which explains so much of the situation we are in now.
To deliver the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, we've got to deliver the free port, we've got to deliver those investment opportunities in Northern Ireland, and that is ultimately what people in Northern Ireland care about, and why people will vote Conservative in Northern Ireland is for those reasons. So what I can tell you is I will make sure the person in that job is the absolute best at delivering for the people of Northern Ireland.
Great. There's a gentleman at the back. There's three of you together. Gentleman with a watch on your hand yourself. If you stand up and the microphone's coming to you.
Many people are now returning to cash to balance their household budget.
yet many businesses will actually refuse to accept cash. What could you do to assist those people who prefer to use cash?
Well, you are right, and it seems to me some businesses.
What's this? Why did? I'm sorry, but who starts it? Like, I am now starting to talk. I am now finished speaking. You know, she reminds me of a Mocklin off the Orville. I am now starting to speak. I am done talking. You may clap. Yes, which actually reminds me with the hands.
Will only accept cash, and some businesses will only accept cards, and that's. But we should make sure that people are able to use cash where they don't have alternatives. I think that is important, and it's a fair point.
Great. Is anyone on the side?
How about you return cash machines and banks to rural areas? That might help, Liz. That might help.
No. Can we go for the gentleman here in the red top? Microphone's coming to you, sir.
Hi, Liz. I'm George. I live in South Antrim, and I used to lead Conservatives abroad in South Korea. So it's great to have you over. So in 2019,
Conservatives abroad in South Korea. What?
Westminster undemocratically and unconstitutionally imposed abortion on Northern Ireland, something which the vast majority of the people here are against. So my question is, will you, if Prime Minister, be a modern-day William Wilberforce and see abortion abolished and infanticide ended in our province? Or even if not that, will you just let the people of Northern Ireland have their say on this issue? Thank you.
Well, I'm afraid I don't.
Interesting question, but as I've been saying for a while, those forces that managed to get Roe v. Wade overturned in America are coming over here. We've seen several conservative politicians just ask questions about abortion. And now he's trying to ask the abortion stats. Now, I don't actually know this. Actually, let's have a look at the stats. Let's see if we can find. Ireland. But it's also, I also just want to point out here something that's kind of funny to point out. We've heard from a lot of people about how, and even Liz Truss, about how they want all the country to follow the same laws and regulations, and yet here's a guy saying, "Oh no, Northern Ireland should be treated differently." Just pointing that out. Hang on. I can't find any stats or statistics. Let's have a look at this. So I'm just having a look at this timeline here, and it does look like every time the DUP, not too surprising, have tried to change it, they've been defeated. I'm just trying to find like a statistic, you know, what's the favorability of abortion. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find it. Statistics. There we go. Oh, hang on. What's this? This is in 2020. 75% think Northern Ireland abortion law should change. So yeah, here's some statistics here. So yeah, 65% of all adults in Northern Ireland agree that abortion should not be a crime. So yeah, as we can see there, so he seems to be very wrong that the mass proportion of people in Northern Ireland do not support what he is saying. So there you go.
I don't agree with you. I think we need, you know, we are a United Kingdom. We are a United Kingdom, and we need all of our laws to apply right across the United Kingdom. That is what being a union is.
There's a lady on the front row here. Microphone down.
Felicity Houston from East Belfast, and I've been the party even longer than Erwin, so I must have been a very young white C when I joined, mustn't I? I'd like to ask about something slightly further afield in Northern Ireland and quite relevant to your current portfolio. You talked about how you've taken such a robust stance against Putin and led Europe, and I think strengthened the resolve of much of Europe to stand up to him. But the next fear I think we all have is China and Taiwan. And the difference I feel between China and Russia is that we are totally meshed with them. Could we have sanctions against China as we did have against Russia? You know, would we even be brave enough to ban TikTok? What are we going to do if the Chinese move into Taiwan?
So, China.
Probably nothing. That will be very much a question for the US. Anything that sort of will be on that will be led by the US. Now, of course, I would definitely support the Taiwanese in this case. You know, you look at their democracy, it is a flourishing democracy. They do not want, especially seeing what happened to Hong Kong, where China went, oh yeah, we'll defend your rights to democracy, and over a period of a decade, just essentially demolished that completely. Yeah, people of Taiwan do not want China anywhere near their country at all. And of course, at the end of the day, they also don't want to be invaded. So yeah, there is that.
China is becoming increasingly assertive. You know, China is an authoritarian regime. It is a very deep security concern for the UK and the rest of the world. But what we need to do is we need to work with our partners like the Japanese and the Americans, because there is strength in numbers. If you look at the G7, it represents 50% of GDP. What I've done, and I did this in Liverpool where we had our G7 meeting last year, is encouraged our counterparts to work together. So we should look at making sure we're not exporting technology that could be used against us. We need clear investment screening, and we've developed that to make sure that we can't have acquisitions of key strategic assets. And we need to be clear that we should not become strategically dependent on China in the way that Europe became on Russia, and they've used it as leverage against Europe in terms of things like turning off the gas. What we're also doing is working with our G7 counterparts on our alternative to the Belt and Road Initiative. Because at the moment, what China is doing is it's investing in developing countries, it's creating debt, and it's using that to try and have greater global influence. So we need to work together with freedom-loving democracies to counter that and to make sure we're investing into those countries, but that also we're not becoming strategically dependent on China.
Okay, not a bad answer from Liz Truss there. I'd like to know what more she means about their version of the Belt and Road Initiative. What does she mean by that? What exactly are we going to do to help these developing democracies? But yeah, that's very fluffy answer. You know, of course, China is again, pushing forward, sort of being aggressive. Is right that we stand up to them, but again, we don't want to start a war in this situation, because a war with China will not end well for the world, essentially. So it is a sort of a very tricky line, but a very surprising, given the type of answers Liz Truss has given so far, an actual surprisingly sort of good answer there on that question.
There's a gentleman here in a fabulous jacket.
Hello, sorry, Conor Aston. I'm just wondering how you could potentially fix the benefit system. If we take a single parent working, it gets to the stage now as a small business owner that people can't afford. If they work more than 16 hours a week, they start to affect their benefits, and they then can't afford to do that. As a small business owner, it makes it much more difficult for us to recruit people. So how could you see to reward people to work rather than to not work?
Well, you make a very good point. So there's a large...
Very, very easy. You increase the hours that they're allowed to work and still retain benefits. One of the big traps of universal credit that has been known about for years is that people start to work in universal, end up on benefits. They then get a job like they are told to on universal credit. The problem is, because their wages are so low, maybe in that business or that job they're working, or they can't get enough hours to sort of accumulate a good business. We've seen people who are on universal credit who have said that if they were to work those extra hours, which means they will get less universal credit, they would have to work even more hours to replace the loss of universal credit. So even though they want to work, they can't, because it has huge ramifications on their living situation. So the best way to do that, first of all, increase worker wages and increase the hours that they are allowed to work before you start to take universal credit off them, and give back the £20 a week uplift. Give that back for starters, and then increase universal credit. Simple as. Also, actually go in and commit to leveling up. Seriously, actually spend some serious money leveling up. Come up with a serious deliverable plan. Is she going to say any of that? I very much doubt it.
Number of people now across the United Kingdom who are economically inactive. And what we need to do is encourage those people into work. And we're also facing businesses that have a skills shortage at the same time. And it is about changing the incentives in the benefits system. And that is what I would seek to do over time to get more people into work, but also creating the jobs and the opportunities that people can work in. And that's why it's important that we keep taxes low, reverse the national insurance increase. So we help businesses thrive, but we're also helping people get those jobs by making the incentives in the benefit system much clearer.
How? What incentive? How are you going to incentivize people? What we have seen traditionally from the Tories in the past is instead punish people and make the system a lot more meaner and stricter. Not help these people, but hinder them more. So we can expect essentially more of that under Liz Truss, unfortunately. And of course, going into a cost of living crisis, yeah, things are not looking good. Things are not looking good.
The gentleman here at the front, if we can get a microphone now, just bear with me. So it is coming round to you.
Jack Irwin, North Down. We have a huge deficit. Is reducing taxation the right way forward or not to service that debt?
So we have the high...
Oh, interesting question there. So if you didn't hear what he said, we have the highest deficit. So is reducing tax a good idea to reduce that deficit? when we've been covering this, simple answer is no. No, it's not. Let's see what Liz Truss' answer to this is.
Highest levels of tax for 70 years. And it's my view that if you put taxes up too high, you actually get less revenue in, because businesses are less likely to invest, people are less likely to set up new companies, people are less likely to go into work.
But the government then gets more money in where it can then use to invest in places so that new jobs can be created, new infrastructure can be built. Again, they don't even consider that could be a thing. Shock horror, the government taking in money and then using it to help people invest in areas. What nonsense is this?
If there aren't clear benefits to doing so. And I think we've got to the stage in our economy where taxes are too high and they're potentially choking off growth. Currently, we're projected to have a recession. And I don't need to tell you that if we have a recession, it's going to be harder to pay the deficit off. Now, of course, over time, we need to make sure the private sector is growing faster than the public sector, and we're bringing those revenues in. But it's my judgment that our taxes...
Why should the private sector grow more than the public sector? Because there have been clear examples, not only throughout history, but in other countries, where not only is the private sector, not the private sector, the public sector, a massive driver in sort of wealth creation, in job creation, in sort of, unleashing the spending power. Again, I'm getting it out again, but exactly what they say in this book, Paint Your Town Red. That book and what happened in Preston, the Preston model, fantastic way of how a local council, using its spending power, could invest and buy local from the local economy, and thus making that local economy more stronger compared to its other regional counterparts. Also has lowest unemployment compared to its other regional counterparts, highest pay compared to its other regional counterparts, although it's very small, but again, it's sort of noticeable. Yeah.
Are too high, and they're actually stopping that economic activity that will help pay off our debt and pay off our deficit over time.
We'll come to the gentleman here. Microphone's coming to you, sir.
Hello, Alan Thompson, Carrickfergus. If elected, what measures would you take from day one to bring to an end the fiasco in the English Channel?
So, I fully...
The fiasco in the English Channel. Rather, again, easy solution to this. Set up safe routes so that migrants do not have to rely on people smugglers to cross the channel. Solved. Solved. Job done. Problem solved. Of course, that will obviously, there are other issues, but if he's mentioning that there's people crossing the channel, make safe routes for them. Simple as.
Support the Rwanda scheme, and I worked with Priti Patel on that. I want to expand that scheme to more countries. It is the right.
So she said, so she wants to expand the Rwanda plan to more countries. Not only is this going to be a Rwanda plan, this could be an all different kinds of countries plan. This is going to be so bad because we've seen what happened in Israel when they did this. We've seen what happened in Australia where they did this. It was an absolute nightmare. And by the way, don't know if you've heard about this recently. A journalist went to Rwanda to try and talk to refugees who had been sent to Rwanda from the UK to find out, were they all right? What was going on with them? The Rwandan government refused to let them talk with them. He didn't even see them. Remember, the Rwanda government has a massive problem of conscripting immigrants into armies and then forcing them into going into raids across to other countries. That is what could be happening to those people right now. That is a serious problem. But it just goes to show you the absolute heartlessness this has happened. And by the way, when people have been asked, and immigrants have been asked and told, oh yeah, you might get sent to Rwanda, it's not stopping them coming across. It is not a deterrent that these conservatives seem to think it is. We are having a massive labor shortage in areas of our country, especially in rural areas and things like that. You could do all sorts of plans, and there are other plans out there, to help solve this crisis. But once again, the Conservatives are not interested in listening to these ideas. They are obsessed with their ideology, and that is what they are going to do. Yeah. 120 million buys a lot of diplomacy. Yep, it sure does.
Right solution, because what it ultimately means is there is somewhere that people can live.
Oh, and by the way, another thing that's happened recently in this, which I think we're probably going to cover, is the High Court today has said that the government must reveal all parts of the Rwanda plan. All parts of it. Because they've been keeping a lot of that hidden. And I think on purpose as well. But we'll find out what happens when we get to see the full Rwanda plan, because it turns out we've only seen half of this awful plan.
And work in the long term, and it is a long-term sustainable solution. The problem we have is the ECHR trying to overrule the decisions made in Britain. And the way I would deal with that is immediately legislating to make sure that the ECHR can't overrule our domestic decisions.
That's very bad. Again, so concerned about the ECHR, European Court of Human Rights. It's not part of the EU. It's a completely separate body. It was set up by Winston Churchill. Question to Liz Truss should be, why are we trying to destroy a very cherished conservative institution? Because the European Court of Human Rights, prior to Brexit, used to be talked about by conservatives as a massive, win for them. Whenever they were said, you're a conservative, you are damaging human rights, they will always point to the ECHR and say, we're not damaging human rights. Just look at how, it was the conservatives that set up the ECHR. That was always their go-to. But again, because it's got Europe in the name, and because, again, it's stopping their ridiculous Rwanda plan, gotta try and chuck it out, which, again, will have ramifications. I'm not sure what those ramifications, to be honest, are, but I'm pretty sure they will have some very significant international concerns if we ditch that, especially in Europe.
Central aisle, this gentleman here with glasses on, if microphone is coming to you, sir. Bear with us.
Hi, I'm Jack from Belfast. You have supported a Prime Minister that has continually lied to the Queen, Parliament and the entire United Kingdom. Therefore, does this not bring into question your own personal integrity and honesty?
Okay, good question. Like that question. Let's see what she answers with. Well,
I don't agree with that. Boris Johnson has been an excellent Prime Minister.
No, he hasn't. But they're going to cheer for it anyway.
He delivered on Brexit.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't deliver anywhere close.
On Brexit, he delivered on the COVID vaccine, and he delivered
Nope.
on standing up to Vladimir Putin and backing the
From all what we've heard from behind the scenes, Boris Johnson wasn't even interested in that until Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, marched into his office and said, "No, you are going to support this." So, yeah.
Ukrainians, and I'm proud of what he did. And what we need to do now.
Oh. Thank you very much, Cathology. Thank you very much.
Is we need to deliver on the promises we made in 2019 to people across the United Kingdom, and that is what I am determined to do.
Fantastic.
Also, it shocks me. Just this week, we did another video about, Boris Johnson is plotting a comeback, and there was so many comments of, Boris Johnson will never make a comeback. He'd never do it. You just saw right there the applause Liz got for saying that Boris Johnson was a good prime minister. And yet there's people out there who still think he can't make a comeback. You've just seen exactly there why he can get a comeback. And trust me, Liz Truss is going to completely implode. And once again, they'll just bring back in Liz Truss. Well, they'll get rid of Truss and they'll bring back in Johnson.
Final question. We're going to go with the lady with the scarf on here, if the microphone can come down.
Liz, you're so welcome to Northern Ireland. We have a great country here, so much going for it. We just need to get it into the right hands. I'm just going to come back on you again about democracy returning to Northern Ireland. As my friend mentioned about the abortion issue, in 2019, it was the Northern Ireland Executive Formation Act that allowed the Secretary of State at the time to bring in this abortion law. Now, you mentioned that you would want things to be the same right across the UK, but it's not the same, Liz. We have an extremely severe abortion law here in Northern Ireland, one of the most extreme in the world. I'm a retired occupational therapist, and I'm very concerned that babies with clubfoot and hair lip both can have modern surgical procedures to correct that, are being aborted. Also, that many babies with learning disability are being aborted, and we're deprived of people with learning disability in our community that can be so wonderful. Now, and there's another issue regarding sex education, so I'll have to shorten and come to the point. But what can you do to repeal Section 9 so that true democracy will be returned to Northern Ireland, and we can even link in with the UK on this, whereas at the case we're not at the same level?
Well,
I will repeat what we said earlier when the last abortion question came up. Overwhelmingly, for what I looked up there, overwhelmingly, the people in Northern Ireland are in favour of having abortion laws. What we have seen is not too surprising. There is an element, not only just in Northern Ireland itself, but in Ireland, of very, very much religious fundamentalism. That is what it goes on there. And one of the things that I've warned about, if ever Ireland ever reunites, the DUP will unite with those other Christian fundamentalist factions in the Republic of Ireland and could cause, or at least bring together, quite a worryingly strong bloc in Ireland. That is a very real possibility. A very real possibility. So Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Pretty Bird. Yeah. And yet, you know, we've said it before. When Roe v. Wade overturned, those powers that overturned Roe v. Wade in America, they're coming over here. They want to overturn the abortion laws in Ireland. They want to overturn the abortion laws here in the UK. They want to go after the abortion laws here in the EU. They are coming here. It is not a joke. You've just seen 2 questions raised right there. And we have already seen people in the Conservative Party, to quote, just ask questions about abortion. They are trying to pave the way already for this. We should be incredibly prepared and ready to shut those people down. Luckily, they have been so far. But we have to be ready to shut them down when necessary. So let's see what Liz answers here for this question.
They're slightly different issues, because the issue of abortion is an issue of conscience for members of parliament. And I do believe that should be decided at a UK level. I think that is the right approach. I mean, on the issue of sex education, that is a different issue that does need to apply specifically in Northern Ireland. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Can you please put your hands together for Liz Truss?
Thank you. Thank you, Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
And that's Liz Truss. So that, ladies and gentlemen, probably your next prime minister. Like I said before, 90% chance she wins. That 10% only there because she might do something incredibly stupid. Again, it's Liz Truss. Maybe she's got a scandal somewhere lying about that might come out and just completely destroy her chances. But bear in mind, they've only got 2 weeks left for voting. And the polls have been very, very clear. Liz Truss is having an outstanding lead. This is not going to be a close race. This is not a close race at all. So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Like I say, it was the Wednesday live show. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do come and join us on Saturday morning for the Good Morning Walk, as always, out and about in the field, enjoying yourselves. I did a bit of a sort of Good Morning Walk video this morning, talking about Liz Truss's audio. So watch that if you want to see what the things will be. Yeah, all that, man. Liz, next Prime Minister, things cannot be worse. Unfortunately, they will. Like I say, Liz will be worse. Certainly worse than Boris Johnson, but worse in so many different ways. So, yes, as always, like I say, come join us on Saturday. Like I say, watch out for the videos we've got coming out as well. Like I say, on your way out, please remember to hit that like and share button. Also, do remember to leave a comment after the live feed has ended. Like I say, it helps with all the algorithmical stuff and whatnot. So thank you very much to the people who do help that. Thank you very much to the people who do help support the channel. Like I say, we've had a new member join the Pony Club today. So welcome aboard. Like I say, grab your saddles. And we're already on the way. To unlocking more emojis. Like I say, when we get more emojis, then I'll be able to commission more to be made. So I'm looking forward to that. So if you do want to help support the channel, we've got the Patreon page, and of course we've got the Pony Club as well. We've also got the one-off donation links down below as well, with the Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, and of course there is the one-off donation link that YouTube has called the YouTube thank you button as well, which I'm not sure if it's down below in the live streams, but it's definitely down below beneath the normal sort of non-live video. But as always, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in as always, and of course we'll see you all next time.